The cold wind had teeth that morning, and it bit through Arisa Hale's coat the moment she stepped out of the taxi. Christmas lights shimmered along the cafe windows, glimmering like tiny promises, but promises had never been kind to her. She stood there, breath shivering in the air, gripping the strap of her purse as if it could anchor her heart. This was supposed to be her fresh start, her moment to believe that life could soften, even for someone like her. But as she pushed open the cafe door, stepping into the warm swirl of cinnamon and hope, she had no idea that within minutes she would be left sitting alone, publicly, painfully, and utterly rejected. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and heartwarming moments, don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to RW Insights right now. Your support helps these emotional stories reach more people who need them. Arisa's blind date, arranged by a coworker, had been described as sweet, grounded, and ready for something real. His name was Rowan Carver, and he looked even more nervous than she felt as he approached the table. But only a few minutes passed before his expression shifted, first confusion, then discomfort, and finally something cold. He glanced at his phone, then at her face as though trying to justify what he was about to do. Without an apology, he muttered that he wasn't feeling it, stood up, and walked out, leaving her sitting alone with untouched coffee and a silence that pressed heavily against her ribs. She didn't cry, she refused to. But her hands trembled as she tried to breathe quietly, hoping no one noticed the humiliation burning across her cheeks. The morning sun filtered through the cafe windows, bright and golden, making her loneliness feel all the more exposed. Couples laughed, families clinked cups, and groups of friends leaned close over holiday pastries. Arisa sat in the middle of it all, an empty island in a sea of warmth. She reached for her coat, ready to escape, when a shadow crossed the table. A tiny hand touched the back of her palm, soft as a whisper. Arisa looked up and met the wide hazel eyes of a little girl who couldn't have been more than 5. "Can we join you?" the child asked in a voice so gentle it felt like a gift. Behind her stood a man, tall, a little out of breath, holding 2 cocoa cups in one hand and a gingerbread cookie in the other. His name, as she would soon learn, was Merrick Solway. He looked apologetic, as though embarrassed by the boldness of his daughter, Nori. He opened his mouth to pull the girl away, but Arisa offered a small nod, the kind born not of politeness but a tired kind of longing. And so they sat, Nori sliding into the seat across from her, Merrick settling beside her with a wary smile. What began as awkwardness slowly warmed like the cocoa between their hands. Nori chattered about the snowman she built in the morning sun, how it kept leaning to the left no matter how many times she fixed it. Merrick listened with quiet patience, the kind that softens the edges of life. Every now and then, Arisa found him glancing at her, not in the way Rowan had, evaluating or judging, but as if he was trying to understand the sadness she was working so hard to hide. Arisa learned that Merrick was a single father, raising Nori after losing his wife 2 years prior. The holidays were both beautiful and heavy for them, reminders of love and loss held in the same breath. He had brought Nori out for Christmas breakfast to keep their tradition alive, though it had grown harder each year. On mornings like this one, he said softly, he wasn't quite sure who was comforting whom, him or his daughter. As the minutes stretched into an hour, something subtle shifted in Arisa's chest. Maybe it was Nori's animated storytelling, or the sunlight catching in Marek's eyes when he laughed, or the simple, unforced warmth they both carried. For the first time that day, she didn't feel like someone who had been rejected. She felt like someone who had been found. The cafe filled with more light as the winter sun climbed higher. Merrick insisted on ordering her a fresh coffee when he realized hers had gone cold. Nori insisted Arisa taste a piece of her gingerbread cookie, declaring it lucky. Arisa laughed, really laughed, almost startled by the sound. When she glanced outside, the world seemed softer, wrapped in gold instead of gray. Still, the moment that struck her deepest came when Merrick leaned forward, his voice low enough that Nori couldn't hear. "I don't know what happened before we walked in," he said gently, "but I'm glad we found you sitting here." The simplicity of the words nearly unspooled her. She hadn't realized how tightly she had been holding herself together until that instant. A warmth spread through her, tender and unfamiliar. It wasn't romance, at least, not yet. It was connection. Human, delicate, and beautifully unexpected. Eventually, Merrick checked his watch, apologizing that he needed to take Nori to her grandmother's for their yearly ornament-making tradition. Nori pouted, insisting she wanted Arisa to come with them because she makes good smiles. Arisa's heart tightened at the innocence of it. Merrick, looking flustered and touched at the same time, offered a quiet smile and asked if she might like to join them, only if she felt comfortable. She hesitated. Not out of uncertainty, but disbelief that a day that began with rejection could end with an invitation like this. She agreed. And as they stepped outside into the bright December morning, Nori grabbed both their hands, swinging them between her as they walked. The air smelled of pine and winter promise. For the first time in years, Arisa felt the gentle stirring of something she thought she had lost, hope. Near the end of the walk, just before they parted ways to pick up ornament supplies, Merrick paused. He didn't say much, he didn't need to. The quiet look he offered her carried more sincerity than most confessions she had heard in her life. It said thank you for staying. It said we're glad you let us in. And somewhere deep inside, Arisa felt the fragile, powerful beginnings of something new blooming. If this story touched your heart, even just a little, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to RW Insights. Your support helps keep these real, emotional, uplifting stories alive for others who need them. Before we close, I'd love for you to comment below. Kindness changes everything.